Paul and his trained sub-disciples taught something they coded as the way. This was the energetic path of spiritual awakening towards Christ consciousness. But they only taught the particulars to people they met with privately. Yeshua did the same thing, by the way. His apostles asked him, "Teacher, Rabbi, why aren't you telling all the people the things that you tell us privately?" And he says, "Because they don't have ears to hear." Paul and his people that he trained would have these private meetings with potential followers to discuss the energetic meaning of the way and to gauge their openness to it and their energetic comprehension level, and then told them they would provide follow-up instruction and support afterwards through letters written based on predetermined code words and concepts. Obviously, not everything could be planned in advance because Paul and his people were continuing to receive divine revelation and downloads and expanded higher knowledge themselves, just like I do, just like we all do when we get in higher consciousness. But this was okay too, because that meant even if you knew code words, you would not necessarily discern the true meaning unless you were meant to and ready to based on where you were in your awakening process. The way I first figured this out is a really good story on its own and involved Paul leading me around my 600-page New Testament, which is the New Testament with stuff that was excluded from it, incorporated as if it has always been there, and newly translated by this council of very qualified theologians and scholars of all different faiths. But he would give me page numbers and columns and paragraphs, and I would have absolutely no idea what I was about to read. I mean, no idea. But he was laying out a story for me. So he was taking me through in this very particular order. And all of a sudden I saw it. When I did, when I tell you that I could hear, feel him cheering, because he was so relieved. He was so relieved. But once I recognized it, it had hugely important ramifications for all kinds of things. It just revealed a whole new layer of guidance and information and confirmation of what I was independently getting through spirit. And that's a convergence of higher truth. When you're in higher consciousness, all of the interpretations and beliefs and ideas and opinions about stuff falls away because higher truth is revealed and you recognize it at this deep level, and it's always for our good. So it never harms us. So here are some of the ramifications. First of all, because whenever he was under heightened scrutiny, which was most of the time, he had to write every energetic, higher consciousness message as if he were writing about Jewish law. That explains how Paul's words could be so easily taken literally and weaponized by people who are stuck in lower consciousness and who lack spiritual discernment and perceived it wrongly as law. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, on the other side of that exact same coin, it also explains why Paul's writings even made it to the recipients from wherever he was imprisoned, because if he'd been writing about stuff that was contrary to law, what would have happened then? And it also explains how and why it survived centuries of censorship. While many other texts that refer to the energetic aspects and the energetic mysticism of spirit became forbidden, quietly hidden for protection in the early century CE, and almost summarily excluded from canon. So that's why we have his writings, is because he was writing in code. Third thing, because we know that he didn't believe in the objective law, he goes on about that for a long time in Romans, for those that were energetically following the way, because you don't need it anymore when you're connected to spirit, because you're getting guidance that's specific to you, and it's always for your good. And because we also know he had to explicitly act like he did believe in the law in his writings, then that means virtually whenever he's talking about law and giving more instructions, he is always or very nearly so using code. Because of this, we can discern what the coded wording and concepts are. So I've spent much of the last 3 years doing just that, both analytically, because I'm an analytical business person by trade, and I also am a professional researcher, but also through spontaneous and independent messages from various of my divine guides in spirit, confirmed multiple ways across all different observable physical systems, and including over 1,000 divine downloads and channel messages about the true meaning of scripture and coded phrases in the context of the divine energetic design, and forming my view of the divine energetic design and how it fits everywhere. Okay, number 4. Once you know he's talking in code, or you trust that feels resonant to you and you trust it, you start to see certain additional markers of that coded message. He's trying to let people know that it's coded, such as 1, Paul or people that he's trained to write similar letters often refers at the beginning of his letters to the fact that he or his trainees met with the people prior to privately discuss the way or similar wording, because he's reminding them that he's about to use code. Second, he often uses nonsensical or immediately contradictory arguments and wording in his coded messages, markedly different from some of his more direct, obviously spirit-inspired scripture, which is really coherent and beautifully written. Not because he was dense or corrupted, but because he was masterful and guided. In this way, he's signaling to the awakened that it should be questioned and scrutinized. And he also took care to try not to inadvertently create new laws that would be used to hurt people at that time. He's actually told me how sad it's made him that his words have been twisted and taken completely out of context in service to self and control, and especially for this long. So you have no idea how excited he is that we're starting to have this conversation. And they made me wait to talk to you about it till the collective was sufficiently ready. But he's so excited. He's ready to be vindicated because he never wanted any harm to come from anything that he wrote. And he's so pumped. He's told me that he's a writer. In fact, when I get a guided message that I know it's him, that he's got a symbol that he gives me related to that he's a writer. He's a writer at heart. He's a writer at heart and a teacher and a researcher and just a curious person. And he told me that he's envious that I'm getting to do what I do. I've been a writer for decades as well and a researcher, but he's in it with me. Like, it's a loving kind of envy, but he's connecting with me from the other side to that. The next thing that he does to sort of signal is he often sticks a sentence in the midst of the passages indicating this is not what it seems and it is not a real rule. Like he does that in Ephesians, and it's really clear. To me, that's one of the most clear examples. And then he often includes a sentence before or after that links it at a high level to the real meaning, but he does it in a subtle way. So it might be like separated by a little bit, but then he'll throw back and refer to it. Once you start to see this, you're not going to be able to unsee it if this isn't it for you. All right. So faith, as I mentioned above, and belief are both very important coded words with important energetic meaning, which we'll talk about in separate videos. But there's so many more and so much to reveal beneath that coding. And it's a sign of our rapidly awakening and ascending collective that I have finally been given permission to share them now. And I'm so excited. If this is resonating, you're going to feel so much peace when you find out the truth.